Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is David Pringle, and I'm here with Victor Valle. Today, we're going to talk about Gitlab.
My name is Victor, and as David mentioned, we're going to talk about Gitlab in our very first technical podcast. So we're very happy to have you all, and let's hope that these are a series of very educational and interesting content for all of the developers out there. So thank you, David, for being here, and yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. All right, so the very first question, what is Gitlab?
So to understand GitLab, I think we gotta understand first what is a Get. It's a source code versioning software that allows developers to basically collaborate in many different ways that they require to do over the development lifecycle, right? So before Git existed, there was other initiatives like Subversion and so that try to resolve this problem of developers collaborating with each other. But all of the other initiatives were imperfect in a way. And Get, which was created, by the way, by Linus Torvalds, the developer of Linux, of the Linux kernel, came to resolve all these different problems by creating a decentralized version control system that could allow developers to really collaborate and to maintain a source code repository that many developers could just write together. So Git basically it's this decentralized software. You can actually, there's a book in the website that I would recommend a lot. Specifically, the chapter number 2. It explains very well how Git works. Its decentralized nature, how Git branching works, which is quite interesting. But again, since it's decentralized, if you just have Git running in your computer, well, you need another fellow developer to connect to your computer in order for you to collaborate together, right? So a very popular way for all of us to develop is to create a GitHub instance. So GitHub it is a very popular product from Microsoft, and it's basically a server that has a copy of the source code repository, and that gives you tools to access this repository by creating accounts. And it introduced a very popular tool or feature that is not part of Get itself, not Get the protocol, which is the pull request or merge requests. We'll dig a little bit more into that, but this GitHub product became really popular. It's one of the most used around the world. But there are some other alternatives. GitHub it's a closed source product, meaning that no one without permission from Microsoft has access to this source code. So this open source alternative, or one of the most or the most solid one, is this one, which is Gitlab. So it's literally a competitor of GitHub, but in the open source area, and it has pretty much the same features. So using GitHub, you can, of course, version your source code repository, your source code, but you can also maintain your packages from JavaScript, your Docker images. It has a very powerful continuous delivery and continuous integration mechanism. And yeah, it's used by millions of developers around the world. So in a nutshell, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you, with GitLab being used all over the world with around over a million active users as of today, and around, I don't know, like 50,000 companies also subscribe to GitLab, what makes it so special?
Well, it's open source nature that it's actually quite interesting. But when Microsoft bought GitHub, there was a huge migration of users, sorry, from GitHub to GitLab, because people don't really trust, what it is really done with that IP. So that could be a reason. You can self-host GitLab, and we will actually we'll demonstrate how to run it even locally. So you have full control over your IP, and actually the cloud version, they have a cloud version which is quite affordable as well. And well, it's just very well integrated with a lot of different tools. So it's easy for you to integrate with Jira, with another tracking system or a notification system. And it's right now in its version, I think it's 16.7, something like that right now. So it's been around for a while. It's quite mature, and there's some other alternatives, but they aren't quite there yet. This is a direct competitor of GitHub, which is these two are the very best in the industry.
I see. Yeah, it's been out, I think, since 2012, if I remember correctly. Now you mentioned about installing GitLab, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually companies, they have their infrastructure, they have processes, and things just basically happen in the back, right? It's like, okay, it's just magic, it's already there. But let's say for first starters, for people who has never used GitLab, how do we install it? Where do we start?
Sure. So as any open source product, something that I do most of the time is that I check for their source code repository. So in this case, they must have, you go to the resources here, and we can see that, well, there's many. Let me go to install. So there's another thing that makes GitLab very interesting, following up on the previous question, is that there's just too many installation options. So you can see here in the install page for GitLab that there's options for Ubuntu, which is the operating system I'm running right now, but there's too many other options, and you don't need a lot of requirements to run GitLab. So there's actually an option to run GitLab in a Raspberry Pi, which is quite interesting because you can have your small development shop and have a GitLab instance running and taking care of the code in the best way, in the best standards of the industry. So there's some other options. There's some instructions to be able to deploy GitLab in the three major cloud providers like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, and it's quite easy to install in there. But right now, what we will do is we will install GitLab using Ubuntu. So I'm gonna just open the terminal right now, and it's literally, we'll just copy these instructions. The first instruction, it updates the package repository from Ubuntu. And the second one installs a couple of dependencies. So yeah. Next, it requires, just in case you don't have a mail server configured, which is going to be our case, we install postfix to be able to send notifications. In production, it is recommended to have a SMTP server. Finally, after we have these very little dependencies, we can proceed to install GitLab. So now this comes with a decision. There's two options for GitLab, even in the self-hosted and for the open source version. One is the GitLab Enterprise Edition, which introduces a couple of features, extra features. We'll take a look at those in a few. But the edition we want to install right now, it's a community edition. So it's the one that doesn't require any licensing or anything. So in order for us to do that, we just gotta be careful that wherever it says GitLab EE, to replace it by GitLab CE. Okay. Now, if we were hosting this in a internet server, it'd be great to use this feature, which gives us an SSL certificate out of the box. So if we configure an HTTPS URL as the external URL, this computer had access from the internet with an external IP. GitLab by itself would download a certificate from Let's Encrypt or some, in this case, Let's Encrypt, I think, for us to have instant SSL encryption. So in our case, we just need to put an external URL. We're gonna access it using localhost. So I'm gonna replace these instructions by the equivalent for community edition and localhost. Okay, so it takes a while to install and configure. By the way, GitLab, it's a Ruby on Rails. I don't know if it's Ruby on Rails, but Ruby software. So yeah, basically after you install this, you should be able to log in into this URL. Now, when you have the login screen, you need to enter your root password. This one is generated here, and it's being placed in a file. So you gotta be careful not to. By the way, as a quick hack, when you type $! In the terminal in Linux, that represents the previously executed command. So if you forget to type sudo, you just do sudo $! And then it does the sudo, but for the previous command. It's a pretty popular hack. Yeah, it took a while, but this is how you install GitLab. And I think we can go over the features now.
Yeah, sure. Let's go over it. Let's see some of the things that GitLab can do.
Basically, you can have groups. In these groups, you can create repositories. A group, you can see it as a folder, if you will. So you create a group. By the way, the groups have different type of visibility. In GitLab, you have these 3 levels. These are the only ones that you have. So you can have a group or a Git repository to be either private or internal or public. This simplified structure, I think, quite convenient. So yeah, now after you have a group, you can create subgroups or new projects. A project, it is basically a Git repository. So whenever you need a new code base, you create a new project. I'm gonna create test just because it gives you the option to create a README file. This is sometimes convenient for some IDEs, some Git IDEs don't work well if there's not a default branch in the upstream, etc. So sometimes it's recommended to just not create it empty. And yeah, well, this is it. You right now will have access to a source code repository, and with all the capabilities and GitHub in this case, or enterprise software. And it actually has, for example, I could even code here with a very advanced IDE that is very similar to Visual Studio. So if I'm on the go, I don't need to have my computer. I can just code, do some updates. Some other features that it has, as I mentioned, it has a very robust and simplified but robust tracking, issue tracking boards. So it's an issue tracker by itself. This issue tracking, it's integrated with the source code. So whenever you comment in commit or a merge request, the issues in the tracking system related to the repository, you have of course all the tools to manage a Git repository, but you also have the CI/CD pipelines. So in order for you to add new pipelines, you just need to create a new file in your repository and you're good to go. But probably that's for another podcast. And well, yeah, you can have you store here the repository of your JavaScript files or your Docker images. And yeah, there's just too much to see. Like you can do monitoring, have analyze your code, again, integrate with CDCI. And if we take a look at the integrations, well, there's just too many.
All right, so now that we see it installed and we know we have different options out there, and with this platform, this DevOps platform, what would you say GitLab can replace? What other tools?
Well, it definitely replaces previous source code repositories like Subversion, or there's a couple of other more from Microsoft, old ones that no one is using anymore. But there's many creative ways in which you can use Git or GitLab, even if you are not a developer. So I forgot to mention that one important feature that you have in GitLab is this ability of the wiki. So a wiki is just a markdown repository where you can store all the content. So you can have in here all the nodes of the process. You can use it to even write a book if you want, and it integrates all this content integrates with the rest of the function. So in a way, this could replace Confluence, for example. So if you use an enterprise tool like Confluence, definitely GitLab, it's an option for you to reduce the cost. Jira, it is another software that could be replaced by GitLab because the issue tracking system is quite robust. It has two types of tickets, one being issue, the other incidents. The difference between the incident and the issues is that the issues can use an issue template that it's a markdown file, and the instance not. In this case, we aren't seeing the template here, but yeah. And when you create an incident, when I create an incident, like a bug, it has a lot of different features that will allow us to communicate not only internally but also with the client. So when there's an incident, it has, of course, the severity, and you can add as well events in the timeline and share this timeline with your users. So it's a very convenient replacement for other help desk tools. So I would say that it's just a very well integrated tool that could replace pretty much, I'd say 90% of your development tools stack.
And yeah, I'm getting ready to wrap up this today's podcast. If there's any other technologies in general that you have been exploring lately, you would like to share with the community so they can start looking at them?
Sure. So, well, we've been using GitLab intensively lately in our company, migrating from all these other tools that don't allow us to scale that well. And looking for this scalability, well, GitLab has been the chosen option, but it lacks some of the business automation that we need for some of the business processes that we want to maintain using GitLab. So another open source tool that has been really interesting for us, it is Nodemation. Really hard to pronounce. The short name is N8N, something like that. But this tool, it actually integrates quite well with GitLab, and you can see it as a Zapier as a private or self-hosted Zapier. That we are looking at the integrations to connect our GitLab instance with a variety of different CRMs to keep track of accounts, to contracts, etc. So developers and non-developers could use this tool along with GitLab or other tools, honestly, to automate a lot of the business processes. So this is a tool that I've been looking at recently, and it's really, really interesting to me. How about you?
Pocketbase is one of the things that I've been looking into it lately, and it's so you can have your own backend server hosted, and you can have your own database. You can have everything and basically run your backend application in it. And yeah, just like GitLab and just like you mentioned Nodemation, Pocketbase can also be integrated with a lot of different things, which absolutely we're gonna be talking about them in the future.
Yeah, this looks quite interesting. It's ready to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing, similar to GitLab, a couple of configurations, you just need to run it, and yeah, it's ready to go. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today, and yeah, wait for us until the next podcast.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this pilot. I hope it was interesting, and let's catch up next time to talk more about technology and software.